Abe, if you could you just kind of introduce yourself and tell me about the results that you got in my program?
Yeah. So Bob, I'm up here in Wisconsin. A couple of years ago, after, many years of personal counseling and marriage counseling and things like that, I actually just came across your ad on Facebook one day, and I clicked through and I watched your introduction video, and I'm like, oh my gosh, could this be true? I mean, of all the things I have done so far, they take me so far and don't get me all the way. What's the next thing I need to do here? And so that got me interested, and then we had our interview together.
Awesome, awesome. So let me ask you this: kind of where were you when you started, marriage-wise?
Well, before I started working with you as my marriage coach, I had done traditional marriage counseling. That certainly helped some, and that got us partway there. But there were still things going on. There was just a lot of conflict. There was the disrespect, that I was feeling and enduring from my wife, and I was trying to lead, but I didn't feel like I was a leader. I was more reactive than proactive. And the formula of being the man, the leader, the king in the family, and the philosophies that you teach. See, that's the thing about coaching, is so much of coaching is about getting into your mind, and thinking about things differently, thinking about things the right way. That was the beginning of what made the difference then of me earning and deserving the respect from my wife, but of my wife showing it to me differently, and responding to me in a way that I was feeling rewarded for what I was doing. Um, for her, the way that she talks about it, we were on the brink of divorce. So whether I knew it or not, the fact is she was so close, even though none of the necessary actions had been taken. Her heart was there, I guess, is the bottom line, which is really rather scary to me to realize that in retrospect.
Yeah, that's the terrifying thing is so often men don't know. And she's been suffering for years and she's making her plans and then they get hit with the I love you, but I'm not in love with you and it's time to start filing the papers or whatever. So I'm grateful to God that you were able to turn it around before you got that far down the road. And so let me ask you a question. We all know how important it is and all the reasons why we want to save our marriage, but like what was nearest and dearest to your heart? What was like your marching order or your mantra? What really kept you mentally, physically, spiritually in it, no matter how much it hurt or how hard it was?
Well, so a lot of this is about the kids, and see, we had already we had three kids in our family at that point. Two kids born to us, one adopted when she was a little toddler, three teenagers in our house. But we were already in the process of beginning adoption of three more kids, and yet in the midst of all this, our marriage is still struggling. And we're working with this adoption agency and this hosting agency, and there's so many struggles when merging a family together. But there were some really tough times that year, as we had these kids visiting our family, and we were beginning to merge and experience what it was going to be like to be a big family with six kids instead of kind of an average family of three, and all the things that go in with the trauma background that it comes along with adoption. So we got delayed. We got delayed by our hosting and our adoption agency, because of the difficulties that we were having in our family, and the stress that we were under, and part of that, a lot of that still that responsibility was on me. Even though I can sit here and say it's not my fault and blah blah blah, how things should have been handled differently, but my God-given role in my life, in my household, as father, as husband, is to lead the family, and to make sure that our family is in a good, stable position, to be able to do these things. And so God brings all these things together, Bob. It was Lisa and I were going through adoption education, learning about trauma, learning about the effects of trauma on the brain, learning about different ways of parenting, connected parenting as opposed to love and logic parenting, the endorphins, the dopamine, all this stuff. And the amazing thing that is how your training also brought in the science behind God's creation here about what's going on in our brains, about what's going on in my brain when I'm triggered, about what's going on in my wife's brain when she's triggered, and the stuff going in my kids' brains when they're triggered, when they're triggering us, everything like that we need to deal with, So all this stuff came together, and that is what drove me was being not just a father and a husband in the family I was in, but being a husband and a father strong enough to support my wife when she's a stay-at-home mom now with 6 kids, and being able to run my business, still be a father, still be a husband, and bring all this stuff together in our life.
And still have time for you and to have fun in your own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of this too is I enjoy all this stuff. I enjoy being a father. I enjoy being a husband. I enjoy my work. And coming from a position where I had been suffering from depression for a while, getting my brain straight, changing the mind patterns that put you in that position, and becoming someone who's in a different position now, approaching things from a different standpoint and a different viewpoint, and understanding a little bit about what's going on in your brain when you start to feel bad, and then knowing the little tips to begin to turn it around so that you don't go down that dark spiral.
Amen. And so do you remember the first thing I told you to do, and how soon was it until you got results?
This is the thing Bob's going to tell you. Do the work. And there is homework. Watching the videos, doing the calls, and doing the homework, being introspective, and thinking about the questions that were asked and writing it down, journaling it. In my case, I journal I do it by typing stuff. So, so I have Google Docs full of stuff. Just like I do my business plans, do my life plan, I have Google Docs full of the questions that you asked me, Bob, that you asked me for our conversations, that you asked me in order to get my mindset right. And so guys, know that's going to happen. Understand that's going to happen. You need to make the time. You need to be willing to dedicate the money, but you do the work and you're going to see changes in your life. And I made a decision to do this because no matter what happened, I was doing this for 3 reasons. I was doing this for me because no matter what happened in my marriage, I knew I was going to come out on the side better off for the future for my wife. And thank God she is still my wife, for my kids. And in the event that the marriage didn't survive, I was going to be better off for the future of whoever I would end up dating or marrying in the future. Because if I hadn't, you know what? I know there would have been a number 2 somewhere down the road. I didn't want that. That's not what I wanted at all. But I made sure that I was doing it with releasing the outcome. I was not controlling the outcome that I couldn't control, but I was working on me. And that was the mindset. And that's the homework. And that's why I put the time in. So after watching your video, Bob, your introductory video that you had before our first phone call, I took some notes, and I actually had sent it off to 3 or 4 of my closest guy friends. And I'm like this formula that Bob lays out about being the man, the leader, and the king. And these guys are all my closest Christian friends, my life group friends. Is this what I've been missing? And they're like, you know what? Why not? Why not give this a try? And so I did. So when it came to the money again, however you guys can do it, whoever guys are watching this, if you're a businessman, figure out how you can do it. Because you know what's going to happen to your business if you go through a divorce. You don't want to deal with that, right? So that was how I did it. Whatever savings you got to dig into, guys, if you're going to do the work, the money is worth it.
So bring us up to speed. Where are you now in your marriage?
Well, all this stuff still takes work. And I'm really happy that we have ongoing calls right now, because otherwise it is easy to grow complacent. And obviously there are things that go up and down. Nothing is perfect. I'm not gonna pretend or be fake about that, because all this stuff really is about being real. But our marriage is as strong as it's ever been. My wife and I have a great relationship together. It takes work. and not everything is perfect. But when we have a discussion or a disagreement, it's different than it used to be. It's not the same problem that we used to have. And when the little things in the past that I would have taken as disrespect, number one, they don't happen as often. So my wife has changed too. She's changed for the better. But when they do happen, I'm better equipped to handle them. So I mean, it's a night and day difference. And coaching is different than therapy. My wife doesn't know that I did this. It's not that I really hid it from her, but I certainly didn't come out and tell her I was doing it either. And I've mentioned you in passing, Bob, about oh, he's a guy I follow on Facebook. He's a marriage coach guy on Facebook and things like that. But to be honest, she doesn't know that I went through the program or did the investment, and that's how I chose to do it. You call the program Winner Back in 8 weeks, and there was proof that it was working within that 8 weeks. And here's the deal, though, guys. Again, you don't control your wife. She chooses you because you're a winner. She chooses you because you are better than the alternative. If she thinks that the alternative of being single is better than being with you, if she thinks that the alternative of being separated, divorced, is better than being with you, that's where you've lost. And so when you become more, when you become better than, that is the point where things start to change in your life. And you got to do that by working on yourself. You got to make a decision of what you can live with, and you be better. Make your wife want to be better because she sees you being better, not because you're telling her that you're better. And it might take a while because she might be dubious because of so many roller coasters you've been on in the past and things like that. But if you do the work for yourself, do the work for your wife and your family, but knowing that you can't control where your wife's going to go, that's where the results are going to come through.
And so that's the most beautiful thing, is that when you can actually become the flame rather than the moth.
Bob, I just want to paint a beautiful picture of what life is like today, 2 years later. So it's February 2021 as we're talking here. 10 days ago, we finalized the adoption of the 3 kids. The 3 kids have been with us now for about 4 months since we went and got them in their country and brought them home. My first 3 kids and my second 3 kids are merging together as a family, and my wife and I are successfully parenting these 6 kids together. We have a vibrant relationship. We have good friends in our church, and we instead of being the weak family, the weak couple among our group of friends, we have become the strong couple among our group of friends.
Amen. That is just beautiful. That is awesome. Yep. I'm so proud of you, and thank you for doing that work and how you're changing those children's lives forever and all the way down their lineage. I mean, just so many lives affected, so much goodness, so much of God's work being done. I honor you for that. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, and thanks for taking the time to speak with me here today.
Yeah, you bet.